guys. It took a while to get here, but we're finally at the final Friday the 13th. Boy, what a ride it's been! The 2009 version of Friday the 13th was produced by both New Line Cinema and Paramount Pictures. And honestly, the story is a bit of a rehash of the first 4 Friday the 13ths. It's a very clean horror movie, basically meaning that it's got a very decent budget, the acting is pretty decent for the most part, if not a little bit hammy in some places, and it has some well-named actors in it as well. For example, the main hero of the movie is Jared Padalecki, the same guy from the TV show Supernatural. And honestly, he's the only actor I even like in this movie. To kind of go ahead and start with my issues of the movie, and honestly, I think this is probably one of the big reasons why I do not like this movie. It is produced by Michael Bay, and honestly, it has his fingerprints all over it. The movie was a little bit divisive amongst fans because they liked it. It was not a bad Friday the 13th film, it's just, we've already seen this before. It doesn't do anything different to reinvent Jason or his story or anything else for that matter. The only thing is it does make Jason to a bigger badass than some of the other previous movies. That's not really enough to go ahead and keep us interested in this film franchise, guys. Come on, do something different. Why couldn't you have continued after Jason X and he went to freaking Mars? He doesn't actually go to Mars. Oh well, do you want, let's just go ahead and get to the review of this movie. I mean, at this point, I'm kind of done, and there's not really a lot to say about this movie. The movie opens up with the credits, where we basically kind of get the ending of part 1 of Friday the 13th, where the main girl from that movie winds up killing Mrs. Voorhees. The twist, quote unquote, is that we can actually see Jason seeing his mother get decapitated, which I think is a little bit better, knowing and actually seeing Jason see his mother's death. He picks up the machete and vows to carry on the family tradition of killing stupid horny teens. So we open up with cliche characters and all that fun jazz.
Hey, you wanna slap that ass one more time for Daddy?
Oh, Daddy like that?
Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and just get right to the bit that I hate. This movie is extremely vulgar. Now, you might say, Ned, you watched all the Friday the 13th movies. How can this one be any more vulgar than the other ones? Well, one, it's a reimagining of the previous movies. And of course, in order to make a quote-unquote reimagining of an older movie, you have to up the ante. As with most horror movies nowadays, especially reboots. And the problem with that is the characters are extremely vulgar. They are constantly swearing, they are constantly talking about sex, they are constantly just disgusting. I just think the vulgarity, and I'm eventually gonna get to the freaking sex scenes in this movie, are a little bit too much. We cut to a couple walking away, so that way they can just, have, a little couple time and whatever, and they wind up going to the abandoned Camp Crystal Lake, where one of the guys is basically getting extreme hints from his girlfriend, and okay, I'm gonna go ahead and cut again and start complaining one more time. Actually, I don't know if this will be the last time. We might get a few more complaints from me. I do realize that all of the Friday the 13th movies have sex and nudity. Actually, that's not true. Number 6 does not have any nudity. It does have a sex scene, but it's not really graphic. The sex scenes are way over the top in this movie. And what I mean by that is, it's basically pornographic. And this is a movie that is very hard for me to recommend to basically any of my conservative friends, because I just can't recommend it. The sex scenes are absolutely ridiculous. The other movies either suggested that they were having sex, or that they were really good at faking the sex. And yeah, there was nudity, but it was never, I don't know. It was never this much.
Where's your sense of adventure?
Oh, come on.
So anyway, we cut to Jason, who's now basically knocking off everyone one by one, because hey, that's what Jason does. He is simply awesome in this movie because he is a hunter. In the other movies, he's basically just walking around stalking and killing people, which is fine. I honestly love that version of Jason because it's a little bit like funny and over the top in some ways, but this one, he's honestly in many ways legitimately extremely scary. That's one of the things I really love about it. He's terrifying. Like, there's this one scene when he actually takes a girl and leaves her in the sleeping bag, hangs her up over a fire, so that way she's wind up screaming and everything, so that way her friends will try to come out and help her, and he basically just winds up killing them. It's terrifying. It just shows that this Jason is a lot smarter when it comes to how he handles in, honestly, his stuff that he does. Now we meet the rest of the characters. They're all bland. I'm just gonna go ahead and end it there. They're all bland, they're all stupid, you don't care if they live or not, which is another thing I don't like about this movie, because in the previous Friday the 13th movies, you at least sort of cared for a decent amount of the characters because they were likable. None of these characters are likable, except for the main character, who's played by Jared Padalecki, the sister, who is a really, really nice girl, and this other girl who is kind of misled to possibly be the final girl, and she's not. Surprise, she gets killed at the end. So we're all introduced to all these characters. Jared's character is basically here to try and look for his sister, who was shown in the previous scenes before the title of the movie showed up. His character is really likable, simply because he's such a nice, caring character. I mean, you're gonna like him compared to everyone else in this movie. One scene that does really stand out to me is when Jason finally finds his mask. He's basically been wearing the potato sack for most of this time. He basically winds up finding this hillbilly who winds up ripping his mask off because Jason does not approve of people having sex with anybody, including mannequins. Seriously, this guy's a perv. He's just absolutely disgusting. I hate this character so much. He winds up ripping the potato sack off of Jason's head, where he feels very self-conscious, so he goes ahead and kills the guy. He feels very sad that his potato sack is now ruined, but what's this? It's his hockey mask! Seriously, you look good in that, boy. So, basically, just to go ahead and just cut to the rest of it, Jason just gets right down to it and kills off the rest of the teens.
Ow! Oh yeah, here comes Kool-Aid, here comes Kool-Aid, I'm gonna save the day. Here comes Kool-Aid, I'm gonna chase your thirst away.
Except for two of them, basically Jared's character and the good girl of the movie. They wind up finding Jason's secret tunnel system, which is under Camp Crystal Lake, and honestly, it's pretty dang cool that they explain Jason's method of being able to pop up behind people kind of like magically, and in this one they do it in a realistic manner because he has a cool tunnel system, which actually has alarms all over the place. By the way, this girl reminds Jason of his mother, simply because of her looks apparently, and this is another scene that I really like where it actually really humanizes Jason in many ways. You can really see the pain and the sorrow behind the actor who is playing Jason in this scene. It's done very, very well. They all wind up escaping except for this girl. Sorry about that. Where, of course, we wind up in a barn because, hey, this Friday the 13th movie has to end in some cliched manner like the previous movies ended, where there's honestly this pretty epic fight scene between Jared's character and Jason. It's done very, very well. Eventually the sister says, hey, stop that, I'm your mama, and it's not right to go ahead and kill people, where Jason gets mesmerized and confused. The main character winds up basically tossing a chain around his neck, winds up throwing it into a machine, where, of course, he dies. Or does he? Because every Friday the 13th movie has to go ahead and end with some kind of jump scare. That's Friday the 13th, the reboot. I'm sorry that this review honestly seems a little bit just... doesn't seem like I really explained much or anything, but honestly, there's nothing to explain in this movie. It's the same darn thing as all the other freaking Friday the 13th movies, and honestly, it's tiring at this point. You hate all except maybe 3 of the characters. The story is just a rehash of 1, 2, 3, and 4, and it's just not original in any way, shape, or form. The only cool thing, once again, is Jason Voorhees. And honestly, I just can't stand that anymore. Like, there's eventually a point when you have to go ahead and look at these movies and say, you know what? We can't just have Jason go ahead and carry these things. We actually have to have some freaking likable characters in this movie. And honestly, I don't even get why the heck we have 12 of these movies. It's extremely uninspired. It's a rip-off of Halloween. It is just completely, like, the quality's not even that good. And do you know what I have to say about that?